Hello everyone, my name is Mehdi Kortnavasi, and in this movie I'm talking about a real example of object-oriented programming in the software architecture and design chapter. I did 15 years programming as a waterfall approach or procedural programming in MS-DOS or Microsoft DOS operating system. And after 12 years ago, I switched to work with the object-oriented programs, and I changed my program, and I really reached to all of these benefits about the object-oriented programs. Let's have a quick view about my program to watch and explain some objects. For example, here is a form for the defining the currency in my program. And in this form, I use some of these objects, for example, bottom keys or check or push button and ratio buttons, and the object as a grid, and each of these objects have a unique properties and behavior. Let's go to the design mode and see. As you see, for example, this is the object, and I can open property windows, and let's see, for example, when I switch and click on each object, the properties according to that object appears, and I can set these properties. Each object have some data and some methods, layout, and another category, and in an all page we can see all of the properties about this object. For example, I click here on an option group. I named it. I can change the back color, back style, font color, the resize position, and the height, width, and with the object methods, for example, the method click, I can write some program, double click, destroy, drop, drag, error method, initiate method, and let's see, for example, the inside of the option group. There are four. I use for another object inside. For example, I choose one of these. I name it OP code, and I define some properties for this code. For example, I name caption, and I choose the font color, back color, or something, and on a click button, a code written in a base class will execute. I can click and view parent code. For example, I defined a whole form with all of the object included as a class, as a base class, and I use a lot of this form with same characteristics and same arrangements in my program, and just I make a sample and set the properties. That's it. This is the benefits of the object programming. So I can see the parent code from the base class. For example, here base class I named is a PAMAC class, and I wrote some code in the click method on the base class. And when I click this object, this program will execute. And if I want to change the behavior, I can write another code in the click, and the object will execute this code instead of the inheritance code from the base class. So as another example, there is a grid here. Grid is the object, and I can use the object grid, or if I activate here the form designer and form controls toolbar, here is a basic object in the Visualforce Pro. For example, I can use a label, and I put a label object here, and here I can set the property of the label. For example, I name label to text. I can change the color, font style, for example, font bold true or font italic true. I can change the font name with another name, or change the font size, and I can write some code. For example, on the method click, I can write a code message bytes clicked, and if I run the program, as you see, if I click on this object, the corresponding program executes. Let's back to the design, and each object have its own specific properties, methods, and commands you can set and read about the behavior of the attributes and set the attributes. That's it. And here is another example as a grid, and I use, for example, column count 4. It means I need 4 columns for this grid. And for example, in a data, I use in a program and set the property for the data. Here is a form. I name is the FRM currency, and here is the objects in the form. For example, command OK or command cancel. If I choose the command OK, this command, on the click, I wrote some code here. And for this command, I can choose another method, initial, key press, and got focus, drag in, drag out, and another. As you see in the parent code, there were another programming code in it. I use a command do default at the begin. It means do the parent code first and then add a new behavior after that when I click this command. And let's see in the form, in the command, in the method initial, the first method will run at load. I wrote some code in the method load of this form. It means when form is loading, this code run. Then the method initial is run. In the initial, I use some code, for example, this form, GRD main. I name this grid as a GRD name. Let's see in the property name, I set a name for this grid. As you see in the property name, I set the name as a GRD name, and in the method initial of the form, I use this form. It means this form. The object, the GRD main, it means this grid. The property record source equal to for example, a table name, or this form, this object, GRD code. GRD code is another object in the GRD main. Here is the name of the column, GRD code or GRD name, and control source equal to, I assign a field of a table for this column, for example. And as another example, here is a container. I can group some objects in one container, and I can go to the objects inside the container, and for example, I use some checkbox and set this property and wrote some commands on it. If I right click there and activate just non-default property, so the only properties I set will shown. Other properties will hide, and if I remove this tick, all properties appear and I can set the another properties. Let's see, these are the default built-in classes, for example in the Visualforce Pro, but you can define your own classes for anything. For example, I made a class library, modify class, and I named it as a POMAC class. This is a class library, and I made a lot of classes inside. As you see in this class library, I can define many classes, and in each class there are many subclasses. For example, subclass date. I use this object with a specific behavior and a specific functions, a specific attributes, and also I added some new properties, new methods, and new uh, rules to this object by my own. As you see in a class, I can add a new property for this class. I can name it, and then I can set property for this new property or new method. Even I can add a new method mtest, for example, and in the method section here I can open and write, let's see, write some commands in this method, and all of the objects made from this class will be affected with any changes I do in this class. Okay, thank you for watching this movie.